Okay, guess not. Yeah, let's just 24/7. We're going to talk about Justin Fields getting the hose. Nobody likes him.
He gets hose?
Oh, he gets hose. Hey, how are you? Good to see you guys. Go ahead, play the music.
This is Monty in the Morning, the show Phoenix Magazine readers voted #1 talk radio show in Arizona.
#1 during your morning commute.
#1 whenever news breaks during your day.
And #1 whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, yo, man, how the heck are you? It is Thursday, September 16th, 2021. It is already Thursday, and it feels like Monday. But it is what it is. Good to be with you. We've got Thursday Night Football for you tonight. Of course, that means the Giants and the Washington Football Club. Do they ever change their name, or do you think they're just now the Washington Football Club?
Yeah, I mean, no, they're not. They're not. They're not changing it.
We got to talk some NFL because, again, this morning we flip on the four-letter. Well, should Justin Fields be starting? Okay, we all know the answer to that question.
Yes.
But no, he's not going to play because Matt Nagy's got a huge ego. We'll talk some NFL coming up. Kenny, first one in, says, "Morning, lads. Glad you're still both alive."
Thanks, bud.
It's tremendous perspective. Appreciate you as well. Whoa. We're off to a weird start.
Yeah, what the hell happened here?
What do you mean? I just coughed. I don't know.
I mean, yesterday we couldn't upload thumbnails. Today the show just starts whenever it wants to.
Yeah, today the show just started. Like, we were talking about hose.
Yeah.
And the show's like, okay, cool, man.
Turn on.
Go ahead.
Turn up.
But YouTube's had some issues lately.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the show on the audio version, you should find us on YouTube. Just Google search The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. Well, that's because we're SEO geniuses.
Right.
Not really. We just call everything The Monty Show. And you can go to themontyshow.com. You'll see our YouTube channel there. And you should subscribe because we're just about, I think we're 3 subs short of 2,100.
Dang.
We are
Okay.
rapidly approaching 2,500 now. When we're going to give away that Traeger Ironwood 650. By the way, we should probably go pick that thing up.
At some point.
Anyway, the point is, we are going to give away this Traeger Ironwood 650. You should absolutely subscribe, and we will hook you up with that. We're also going to give away this Xbox Series S. You should absolutely subscribe. All of that shenanigans starts at 2,500. But when you subscribe, take a picture, tag us in that photo on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok. The both of us, The Monty Show and SLC Supercars, and you'll be entered to win. Jake, why don't we start this here very fine program where it seems like everybody's starting, which is with USC football. And the names are beginning to mount. Real versus fake. We've heard a lot of names this week. We've heard everybody from Kyle Whittingham to Urban Meyer to James Franklin at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. And I was corrected yesterday. It's Cincinnati. People from Cincinnati, would you be Cincinnatans? I don't think so. It is absolutely Cincinnati.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You're not Missouri, so I'm not going to say Cincinnati. It's Cincinnati,
Yeah.
and the Reds suck.
What?
Anyway, we all know that's a Cub town. Anyway, the point is, there are a lot of names flying around. And I guess the question, and we've talked about this week, but
Yeah.
I think the question that has to be asked is, how good is the USC job? Because not every job does every single name in college football get mentioned for. Not every job is described as a dream job, but USC football is. Not every job will a coach leave a dream job to go to USC, but they'll leave it for USC football.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to me, this debate about just how good the USC job is. I as I said yesterday, and as you defecated all over it and, just disrespected me for it.
I did. That is fact.
USC,
that did happen.
Like the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Live on YouTube.
I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, go ahead.
USC's a phenomenal job. I think it is arguably one of the best jobs in college football. And I say that because I think there's only 3 or 4 best jobs in college football. Notre Dame's one of the best jobs in college football. USC is one of the best jobs in college football. I don't know which job in the SEC is a great job because the Alabama job's not a great job. Nick Saban's made the Alabama job a great job. But do you want to be the guy that replaces Nick Saban?
No.
That's not a great
Hell
job.
no.
No, right? That's not a great job. So, again, I will ask you, Jake, is USC football a great job?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's obviously one of the best jobs in college football. Yes, it is. But I think that the trouble for me when it comes to USC football is this is a vanity conversation. This is a glitz and glamour Los Angeles conversation. You know, when I look at USC football, I say to myself, for your generation, they were a powerhouse. The Pac-10, USC, Pete Carroll, Reggie, like all those dudes. Yeah, that was when USC was a powerhouse. But for people of my generation and later, USC has done nothing. And that, to me, I think is the biggest issue. Now, that said, for guys, the list of names that we're going to go through today, for any of these guys, you would be excited about the USC job, mainly because I just firmly believe that if you can be the guy that takes USC to the college football playoff in the next, 3 years, probably 4 years, because of how much talent, USC is obviously going to be able to turn it around much faster than Stony Brook would be able to. So to me, if you're the guy that takes USC to the promised land, to the Final Four of college football, if you will, in the college football playoff, you're going to be a legend. You're going to be a hero in that town. And I think that's really why the USC job is held in such high regard. I don't actually think USC is that great of a football school. Do they get all the talent? Yes. Are they in LA? Yes. But actually winning football games, that hasn't been a thing for USC in quite some time. So that's why I say it's kind of this balance. But if I'm, any of these names that we're about to go through, I would be excited about the USC job mainly because it is a massive opportunity for your resume. It is a massive opportunity for your career path, your career arc. Imagine being, I'll just use Mario Cristobal as an example. You've been at Oregon for a long time. You've been doing some nice things at Oregon. Let's say that you jump ship and you go to USC and you take them to the college football playoff. You're immediately held in like super high regard now because you took that program and took it places. So from that perspective, that's why I think that the USC job is a great job. But I don't actually think that USC is even close to the best football school in the country. That's my opinion.
I think it could be, again, pretty easily. I think right now today, Alabama's the best football school in the country. I have no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. And, right now in the Pac-12, I think Oregon or UCLA is the best football school in the Pac-12 right now today.
Which, by the way, on that note, there is a lot of debate. Like, that is a huge topic right now in the Pac-12. There are some people say Oregon, some people say UCLA. Like, there's just it really depends on, like, how you weight the wins. And we had that discussion earlier in the week. You can find it, in our videos. But that's something to pay attention to in the Pac-12 without a doubt.
Well, Pac-12 play's coming. I mean, there have been very few conference games to date. Obviously, one got a coach fired, USC Stanford. All right, what do you make of the candidates that are public?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to begin or end with Kalani Sitake?
Let's end with Kalani.
Okay, let's start with Urban Meyer then.
Mm-hmm.
Because Herbs, as I like to call him.
Herbs.
What a dick. Urban Meyer, who is not the nicest guy in the world. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer was instantly the first name that came up when the USC job came open last week. Or this week. So, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars media asked Urban if he was a candidate for the USC job.
Yeah, there's no chance that I'm here and committed to try to build an organization.
Okay, well, that's pretty definitive. Thanks, Herbs.
Less than convincing, though. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I was not I was not convinced that Urban was like, oh, yeah, no, there's no chance.
Yeah, there's no chance.
I mean, listen, coaching Trevor Lawrence is, rewarding and it's remarkable. And I'm very lucky to be in this position. And Jacksonville's a great organization. And while I am one of the biggest dickheads in the world and nobody likes me or wants to work with me, there's not a chance.
Yeah, there's no chance.
That I'm going to USC. He didn't say that. Instead, what he said was, hit the button.
Yeah, there's no chance that I'm here and committed to try to build an organization.
Okay. So good luck in your interview with USC, Coach. I think he's a candidate.
Yeah.
And if Mike Bone reached out to him, the athletic director at USC, Mike Bone, if Mike Bone reached out to him, you tell me Urban's not taking that phone call? Come on,
Of
man.
course he's going to take the phone
on.
call. I guess. And this is another underlying question I think applies to a lot of these candidates. Like how willing are you to leave what you've built behind? And I think for Urban, he hasn't built much yet. And that's why I think everyone just sort of assumes that he would be a front runner for the position. To me, though, I think when you're at the NFL level and you're just starting out, I don't know, man. I think I don't know. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me that he would just sign up for coaching the Jags and then he would just leave for USC. That to me is, I don't know. But Urban is kind of crazy, right? We know him to do some crazy things, so maybe he will. But I just think that as unconvincing of an answer as this was,
it was unconvincing.
I mean, it definitely was unconvincing. It wasn't like clean and just cold-blooded, like, no, I'm never doing that. But I don't know, man. I think that Urban Meyer's a guy who knows how to play the media game. He knows how to play the PR game.
Yes.
And I think that at the end of the day, no matter how you ask the question to him, he was always going to say no. And for these coaches, it all comes down to the numbers. That's as simple as it is.
Bless you.
Man.
I think there's, without question in my mind, Urban Meyer is the top candidate on any college football coaching job.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Is he taking that job right now? Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, there's no chance.
I mean, he is, to me, I don't see him walking away in the middle of a season.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, if USC's smart, they're not filling this vacancy until January, when Urban Meyer is long done coaching the Jacksonville Jaguars for 2021. So I think Urban is – I'll say Urban's a real candidate.
Yeah, I'll agree because I think you can never rule Urban Meyer out of anything in terms of college, coaching vacancies. I think that he's just that guy, right? Like he's bounced around, but everywhere he's gone, he's won football games. And to me, you've said multiple times, and I kind of agree that USC's not in a position to take a, big air quotes, take a risk on somebody.
They can't.
And so to me, the question with Urban that's always fascinated me is how do you view what happened at Ohio State with his coaching staff? Do you view his inability to control and manage those kind of situations as a risk? Or do you say, hey, well, that was a one-off thing, like, he's not really a high-risk candidate?
I think the bigger issue for Mike Bone hiring Urban Meyer is that you have a lot of female leadership at USC.
Yeah.
And Urban Meyer has allowed quite a bit of spousal abuse and significant other abuse. And he fostered an atmosphere where Aaron Hernandez thrived, where an assistant coach continuously abused his wife, where his players have been involved in heinous accusations. And, whether that's Zeke Elliott, point to the guy.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer's record with domestic violence is not a good one. And to me, that's the risk that USC would be taking. Is Urban Meyer well-liked? He's not. Urban Meyer, frankly, as I've said, is an asshole. And most people already in Jacksonville just do the math, read the headlines, talk to people. Most people in Jacksonville, including the coaches he hired, don't like Urban Meyer. But the reason that you'll put up with that is he wins. And if you hire Urban Meyer, you're going to win a national championship. He did it at Utah. He did it at Florida.
Yeah.
And he did it at Ohio State. He's going to do it in his next stop in college football. Will he do it at Jacksonville? Probably not.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most difficult adjustments to make is telling a kid where to be, when to be, and how many times to wipe his behind.
Uh-huh.
And then you go to the NFL and they're like, no, man, I use moist flushable wipes. Thanks. Like they don't need your help and they don't want your help and they're not going to listen to you. So I just think it's a very difficult hill to climb. Now,
Yeah.
then there's James Franklin at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get this because James Franklin seems to be the number one guy for everybody's job. And I don't understand this. So I'll ask you the same thing I asked about USC. Is Penn State a good job? Well, I mean, it's forever stained. I mean, there's a scarlet letter on Penn State. The Paterno, Sandusky, ridiculousness, tragedy, damage that was done to humanity for decades, that was covered up, that nobody wanted to talk about. And I still don't, to this day, believe that Penn State should have a football program because of it. That's always going to be a scarlet letter on that team. Now, having said that, Penn State's a pretty good football job. That's a pretty good place to play a night game when it's all whited out. I mean, Happy Valley ain't that unhappy.
Yeah.
But James Franklin just hasn't won.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, and we've said this about James Franklin the last week or so. I don't understand the hype. I don't. And the Big Ten, for all its ferocity and, oh my God, Ohio State.
The
Ohio State. And who else? Because it ain't Michigan. It's not Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, my God, Nebraska's gone in there and done nothing but miss the Big 12. I mean, figure it out. Is it beyond the fact that they make a ton of money, and they do make a ton of money per team? They're the best in college football revenue-wise. What are they really winning? And outside of Ohio State, who's really winning?
Yeah.
In football. It's a different equation, right? Oh, but PJ Fleck, and oh my God, the Golden Gophers.
No.
Not really. Oh, man. Not really. It's Ohio State. That's not a deep conference. Jim Harbaugh has had, and Jim Harbaugh, everybody will tell you Jim Harbaugh has been nothing short of a failure. Well, because the bar was national championship or death. So
Good luck.
I don't know how you ever meet that expectation.
Yeah.
But as Coach Loverin pointed out on Twitter yesterday, James Franklin has not been as successful as Jim Harbaugh has been at Michigan. The only difference is, well, you're coming out of molesting children at Penn State and you shouldn't have a football program. So the bar's not quite as high there as it is in Michigan, where you never win anything. Even when Lloyd Carr was there,
Yeah.
you split, and it didn't really go your way. And you really don't ever beat Ohio State. I mean, let's be honest. So is James Franklin really that great of a candidate?
Yeah, I think the thing that is going for James is that he is a young, energetic personality, and I think that when you're going to LA and it's USC and you've got that kind of culture,
Yeah.
that I think is what helps him. And I agree. He hasn't won much. He hasn't really done a whole hell of a lot at Penn State. And is Penn State a great job? I'm not going to say it's a great job. Does it have a lot of heritage? Yes, it does. Absolutely. There's a lot of history there. And I think that yes, it's one of the best home field advantages in college football. But again, at the end of the day, it's whether you're winning football games or not. And you're totally right. The Big Ten is a one-team conference until Michigan decides to show up. And that's the trouble. And so, that all of that to say, that's why I think this whole James Franklin narrative is legit. Because think about it. The Penn State and the Big Ten, yes, it makes a ton of money, but also they're not winning a lot of football games. They're not relevant. They're not in the conversation.
The reward is not significant. And again, you said the word that I love so much, culture. And I think culture is wildly, wildly, wildly underrated. Because again, at USC, what do you have at USC? Mike Bone, the athletic director, who's been there a couple of years, straight up said the other day, the only thing that's going to be good enough is for us to win a national championship, because that's the culture That's the belief system at USC. They have a history of doing that, right? And the next coach who they hire is likely going to make that history a reality. He's going to bring the past into the present because there's so much opportunity there, right? What's the culture at Penn State? Because it ain't winning, and it's not football. What's the culture at Michigan? The culture at Michigan is almost winning, but not really winning.
Yeah.
What's the culture at the Ohio State? It's winning. It's putting guys in the NFL. It's absolutely doesn't matter who the coach is. Ryan Day, Urban Meyer, your mom, her mom,
Luca's mom.
They're all winning championships at Ohio State because that's what they do.
Yeah.
Right? What's the culture at Alabama?
Roll
you got
Tide.
To roll Tide. You got two of the best coaches in the history of college football who are iconic because they were at Alabama. Now, again, I will say the day that Nick Saban gets hit by a car that's got an Auburn logo on it, that job sucks. And that job does suck. And I agree, I can't remember who said it yesterday, but as soon as Nick Saban leaves there, it ain't Alabama anymore. It's just a bunch of dudes who think they're Alabama, right? Because that's, I guess, the big thing about USC is you need a guy. And think about Nick Saban. What is Alabama football? Alabama football is Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. What is USC football? Yeah, I don't know either. You know what USC football was when he was there? It was Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll chomping on gum and at 3 a.m. being on the streets of South Central helping gang members and homeless people. That's what SC was. That's what SC will be again.
Yeah.
So to me, SC's a great job. I don't think Penn State's a great job. And frankly, I don't know why James Franklin hasn't gone out of his way to knock it down.
I have. I have. But I've also found and tracked this over time that really no matter what you say, people aren't happy with. So I've decided that I'm going to handle this internally and talk to our team. It happens every single year. I'm not worried about distractions in the media and with the fans. I'm worried about my team. So I talked to my staff about it. I talked to the players about it, the leadership council in detail. But I think that's the best approach.
James Franklin, the head coach at Penn State.
So once again,
Yeah.
another head coach not giving a definitive answer.
And Dan Patrick on the DP show yesterday said that he has been told by sources deep inside the orifices of USC. Sources in that ass. Sorry, I had to. Sources at SC have told Dan Patrick that SC and James Franklin have mutual interest in each other. Hey, that's cool. That's great. I have mutual interest in, being a billionaire. That doesn't mean I'm ever going to get there.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And this is a guy, by the way, that, again, I would remind you, has been a head coach at Vanderbilt and Penn State. And as a head coach, he's 86-43. But he's only 5-4 in bowl games. Is James Franklin a guy that and I think there's a good chance. If one of these guys is real, I think James Franklin's real.
Yeah.
I think he's a real candidate.
Yeah.
But when I look at James, he's not a guy I look at and I'm like, man, I have got to have James Franklin as my head coach.
Yeah.
No. I've got to have Kyle Whittingham. I hesitate to say I've got to have Urban Meyer because he's just not a good dude.
Yeah.
I've got to have a guy like that. And if you think about this, ask yourself this question. And if you have people around you, go ahead and answer it out loud without telling them what you're talking about. It's fun to look insane. Who's the best coach in college football? Okay, no doubt about it, it's Nick Saban, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got to have Nick Saban. If you're USC, have you called Nick Saban? And I know everybody gets on me about this when I say stuff like this. Mm-hmm. But this is a mentality, and this is a belief thing. And one of the guys that I work for, a guy named Hayward McAlpine, said to Jake and I one day, be delusional. Because you never know, right? You never know. So if I'm USC, I'm calling Alabama. I'm calling Nick Saban's agent. Hey, it's Mike Bone, not Bond, at USC. I'm the athletic director. Have you ever heard of me? No, never heard of you. Well, hey, I'm the athletic director at USC. By the way, is Nick Saban available? I'd like to interview him for the head coaching job at USC. Okay, so you're on the phone with Nick Saban's agent, and I'm being serious right now.
Right. Yeah.
If you're Mike Bohn at SC,
Yeah.
you call Nick Saban's agent.
Uh-huh.
What's the best possible outcome?
That he says they'll try to make it happen.
What's the worst? No, the best possible outcome is, oh, yeah, Nick would love to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's set up a conference call.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Right.
What's the worst possible outcome?
That he yells you off the phone, I guess.
Here's the worst possible outcome. Click.
Yeah.
Okay, and now what have you lost?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. Call him. Why wouldn't you call him?
Yeah.
And this is the thing I don't understand in the NFL. Who's the best coach in the NFL? If you could have one coach in the NFL, well, of course, you're going to call Matt Nagy and tell him he's fired because you hired Bill Belichick. Right? Like, seriously. I mean, if you think about
That's
it,
cold-blooded.
if you think about the coaches who have been hired lately, they're young. They're the Stefanskis of the world. They're
Cliffy.
young. They're inexperienced. Cliff Kingsbury. Right? If I'm the Chicago Bears after this season and I fired Matt Nagy, which will probably not happen because, again, he must have nudes of Virginia McCaskey. That's all I can think of. My point is, do not Google search Virginia McCaskey Chicago Bears.
Are people Myron?
And when you see the image, just think nude.
Wow.
I'm warning you not to do it.
Wow.
Which is enticing you to do it. My point is, if you have a head coaching opening, call the biggest, baddest MFer on the planet because they just might take the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get the interview and you can't close them, that's your fault, not their fault.
Right.
Why would you not call Saban? If you are USC, is our next candidate, Kalani Sitake, a real candidate
This is
to be the next head coach at USC?
This is one where I'm like, this is ridiculous. I just don't think that. I don't think that Kalani's going anywhere. You have the extension.
That could be.
I think that I don't know. I just think that Kalani has This is like Fickle. You spent 5 years now building this thing. You spent so much time and effort getting to a place where you just beat Utah. You finally are on the right side of the holy war. Like, you're coming off one of the best seasons you've ever had. You put Zach Wilson in the NFL number 2 overall. Like, you're doing awesome things. You've got this massive NIL deal for the program now because you're actually good. Like, you're doing all this stuff. And by the way, now you're in the Big 12. He's not going anywhere, dude. Like, I don't buy for a second that Kalani is a legitimate candidate. I think that's just a talking point because Kyle Whittingham is a legitimate candidate.
Yeah, I think Kalani would be a great hire. He just got a contract extension. He just beat Utah for the first time in a decade. Kalani's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't believe Kalani Sitake is a candidate for USC.
Yeah.
He'd be a spectacular hire. A poly head coach? Oh, my God. Can you imagine one of the best recruiters in the country, which I actually think Kalani and his staff are?
Yeah.
Can you imagine Kalani Sitake recruiting at a football powerhouse like USC? Good Lord.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? He'd be a great hire. I don't think he's available. I would call and ask. There's no doubt about that. I would call and ask.
Yeah.
So if I had to say to you, so these are 3 names that are out there on a regular basis. I think Urban Meyer is probably the home run there. I think James Franklin's probably the most likely there. And I think Kalani Sitake is absolutely not a candidate for that job.
Agreed completely. Yes.
So who's
100%.
gonna get that job?
I don't know, man. I think, and this is kind of what we were talking about in the pre-show meeting behind the scenes
Stuff.
I think they're going to have to take a little bit of a risk on somebody. I think that they're not going to be able to go and get Kalani or any of the front-running names. I think James Franklin is a risk. I think he's never won anything, and I think that he's done a good job. Yeah, he's done a good job, but you're not looking for someone to do a good job. You're looking for someone to win a national championship, and he hasn't shown the ability to do that. So I don't know who they're going to go and get, to be honest with you.
SC Trojan Mike.
Okay, this should be good.
Never heard of you, but welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
On Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says your co-host doesn't know football. Have me on so I can tell you the truth about USC, which is it's the best job in the country. You're welcome. All right. Well, don't ever message us again. I don't.
I mean, that's an
Do you feel better,
opinion-based
Mike?
thing. That's an opinion-based thing.
But I agree that you undervalue USC. I think.
Okay, let's break this down then. What this is the conversation I want to have then on SC. If SC is such a damn good job,
And it
right?
is.
If it is, you say it is, I say it's not. Here's why I say it's not. It used to be. Now I don't believe it is because you've had all these penalties you've had to work through, and you're pretty much irrelevant in college football. You are. You haven't been a contender for the playoff. You're not doing like your biggest name is Keaton Slovis, and he hasn't done anything really. He's been a nice name, but he hasn't, like, in a national perspective. If you said, hey, who are the top 5 quarterbacks, he's not going to be top 3. I think he'd battle to be top 5. And I look at that program and I just say, yes, is there potential? Yes, there is. Is there potential for someone to come in, recruit, and take them to a national championship? Yes, there is. But that doesn't make them a best job in college football. I just disagree with that sentiment. And I think the difference here is that your generation knows the Pete Carroll era and values that.
I thought you just said I'm old.
Yeah, I did say that. I did say that. Your
checking.
generation, when you were sitting at Carney's and watching USC football, playing whoever they were playing and winning national championships and stuff like that.
Ohio State.
Like, you guys romanticize that time. I'm telling you
But
now.
here's the flaw in your argument.
Okay.
They're one coach away from that.
Great. So this is I want to remember this show. When they hire somebody and they don't win, I'm going to reference this time because that's going to happen.
Right, but I think if they hire James Franklin, they're not going to win.
But you don't get to make that excuse, though. If it's such a great
hire
job and
the
great
right fucking guy.
program.
I do get to make that. If you hire Jimmy's mom, who's running a lemonade stand to be your football coach, she's not going to win. If you hire James Franklin, who can't win at Penn, he lost to USC in the Rose Bowl with Saquon Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the head coach at SC? Clay Helton. Clay Helton, the guy they just fired, beat you 52-49 in the Rose Bowl. He's never competed at the top. In my opinion, he's never competed for the very top of college football. And you're going to hire James Franklin. If I was a betting man today, I'd probably go James Franklin. I'd be shocked if James Franklin got that job and they became a national powerhouse. Now, if you hire Luke Fickell, Kalani Sitake, Kyle Whittingham, Chris Peterson's another name, but Chris, I think, has told everybody he's not ready to coach right now today. Does that mean he won't take the job in January? I don't know. Ask me in January.
Yeah.
But if you hire one of those guys will go. If you hired Kyle Whittingham to be the next head coach at USC, they'll win 3 championships in 5 years because that guy is going to punch you in the face, and all of his 5-star linebackers and DBs are going to come and then step on your neck. Mm-hmm. That's who Kyle Whittingham is. And in my opinion, he's the baddest man on the planet that nobody knows about. You hire a guy like that, you're going to win, right? USC always has talent. Always has talent. And my a-hole brother, him and I had massive arguments over this, I always said, hey, USC competes for a national championship every year. They do. The problem is they don't have a good coach. They haven't. Steve Sarkisian was an alcoholic, a raging alcoholic. They fired Lane Kiffin on the tarmac. They had a TV celebrity as their AD.
This is what I'm saying, dude.
But here's the problem for you now. They've got all that's gone away. Mike Bohn's a fabulous administrator.
Well,
he is the right guy to be their AD.
Yeah.
He's going to hire a good football coach. I'm telling you, if you put a good football coach there that can recruit, that can handle the pressure, there's no pressure at Penn State. There's no pressure at there's no like who's pressuring you?
Is there pressure at Utah?
Yeah, he almost got Kyle Whittingham. Do you understand what Kyle Whittingham's done?
Like he almost got fired. I know.
Yeah, but to build a program from a Mountain West program, a Mountain West talent level to a Pac-10, Pac-12 powerhouse, that's really difficult.
Yeah.
I think there is pressure for him to win it at Utah. And by the way, pressure is self-inflicted.
Right.
Guys that feel pressure to win, those are the guys you want to be your coach. I'm just telling you, they hire the right coach, they'll win 3 championships in 5 years because you're going to have all the best talent. All right, let's get some of the comments in here. You guys are always spectacular. Thank you for participating in this show. We love hearing from you. Greg Hawkins, what's up, TV star? He says USC should hire Larry Scott. I think they should.
Yeah, that would just be the best hire that anybody could ever find, man.
Go Irish. Mick Stevens says USC football is Nebraska with a beach. Well, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. What's the
comparison? I think what he's trying to say is that USC is all hype and no follow through, and they have a beach.
Yeah.
That's, I think, what he's saying.
Spencer Morgan said, did Monty just claim Urban Meyer won a natty at Utah? No, but he was part of being the original BCS buster. There's no doubt about that. When you look back at what Urban Meyer got at Utah and turned into, and then what he left behind at Utah, Urban Meyer played a huge role. By the way, he also played a huge role in the development of Kyle Whittingham. But Urban Meyer played a huge role in their BCS runs. It's pretty clear. Hawkins says Penn State should be a good job, but it just doesn't have the shine. I agree with that.
Yeah.
The Buff says, hey, Monty, your sidekick doesn't get it. It's not where USC is now, but where a new coach could take it. Thank you. Spencer Morgan says Penn State has been closer to the playoffs, more Rose Bowls in recent years than Michigan. Well, the problem is, again, I just talked about this, and I'm not saying you're wrong. James Franklin doesn't win bowl games. You had Saquon Barkley and who was the quarterback at Penn State in that game?
I don't know, and nobody else knows.
Trace McSorley?
Sure.
I'd have to go back and look.
It was Saquon Barkley's team.
Yeah, but you had a quarterback and a running back, and you lost 52-49.
Listen. Everybody's saying that I don't get it about USC, and here's what I'm going to say about USC. Mm-hmm. Remember this show, okay? Remember this show, because they're going to hire somebody. It's going to happen, and when it does happen, I can't get down with this whole thing of, hey, USC's a great job, and then they're going to hire a name, and whoever that name is has to be the right fit to get the job done. All I'm saying is that if you're a great program, if it's such a great job, they should be able to get the best name available. They should be able to get top end. Maybe not Nick Saban, but like an undisputed name.
But isn't that what the rumor mill is full of? I think this tells you one of the indicators that USC is still a very good job is look at the names we're talking about. We're not talking about has been nobody, bruh. We're talking about Urban Meyer, Chris Peterson, Kalani Sitake,
yeah,
Kyle Whittingham. I think what this comes down to is, are you a championship program? This is the Michigan conversation. Jim Harbaugh left Stanford to go to the 49ers to go to Michigan.
And he had it good at Stanford.
Ask yourself this question. Is Michigan football a team you think of when you think of perennial national championship contenders? Back to Bo Schembechler, back to Desmond Howard, back to Lloyd Carr. Because I don't. I don't believe that Michigan's a national championship contender. They don't do what needs to be done. They love filling up that stadium, and then Utah comes in and beats your ass in your own stadium after a rainstorm. That's who you are.
Yeah.
That's who Michigan's always been.
Yeah.
You're not a national championship player. Is Penn State a national championship player? They're not. Right? When I say a team's name, is Notre Dame a team that competes for a national championship every year? Absolutely they are. Is Ohio? Absolutely Ohio State is. Is USC? Absolutely they are. Are they right now? No. That's why they fired their coach. And that's why the AD, Mike Bone, came out and said, hey, the only acceptable standard is national championship or we failed. Alabama, absolutely. Right?
I guess that's just what I have trouble with, and I'm not trying to be really stubborn about this, but when is the last time USC has done...
Pete Carroll. That's the last time.
And how long ago was that?
Well,
15 years now?
Yeah, but again, it's the Cubs, bro. Why did the Cubs go 5,000 years without winning a World Series? Terrible management.
Yeah.
When you're a professional sports team like the USC football team, You have to have good management, right? Like, I mean, that's what this is about. Nick Saban is a great manager of programs.
So because they hired a new AD, now they're back to, and I'm just genuinely asking this question because we're saying, and I agree, you have to have good management to win and be successful. I agree with that 100%. But what I'm trying to point out here is everybody's saying USC's a great job. It's a great program. It's all this great stuff. And I agree. It has heritage. It's LA. It's great stuff. Absolutely. Must-watch TV all the time. I agree. But at the same time, we're sitting here trying to say, on one hand, this is a great program, and every year, they're a program you think of when you think of the national championship conversation. But then on the other hand, we're saying, well, they had to get a new AD. They had to fire a coach. They had to do all this stuff. And so for me, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, this is not a great program. What this is a heritage program, a program that is in LA, that has done some winning in the past, and that people think could go right back to it if they had the right personnel in place. And to me, that's like two different things. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that USC sucks or that somehow they're a bottom feeder program. They're obviously, a great brand in college football. That's the word I would use. They're a strong brand. You ask anybody on planet Earth, and they probably know what USC is. So I get it. But all I'm saying is when I look across this country and this college football landscape, I am not putting USC in the national championship conversation until they prove that they can be there, until they prove that they can go out east and beat somebody.
I think all you need at USC is a new head coach in 1 year. You need a head coach to come in there. And again, what does Nick Saban always say? Because I listen to Nick Saban motivational a lot. You need a coach at USC to come in and get all the players on the bus. Get the right players in the right seats. And the kids who don't fit on the bus, who are trying to go in a different direction than that bus is going, get out. Mm-hmm. Cut them. What does Urban Meyer do every single year at every school he's at?
Yeah, if they hire Urban, they're going to win a national championship.
Right, but my point is, Urban Meyer cuts the bottom 25% of his roster every single year. And you should. Because those guys are never going to be ones and twos. You need your 3, 4s, and 5s to believe they're ones and twos. And you got to find those guys. And as Nick Saban says, put them on the bus, put them all in the right seat. That's what you got to do. Why is Nick Saban upset about the way they came out and played against Mercer? It matters, man. That's what USC hasn't had since Pete Carroll. And they now have an athletic director who's a legitimate college athletic director.
Yeah.
So now you're making pragmatic decisions. It's why the basketball program's turned around quickly. It's why you're able to compete. Anyway, here nor there. If you're asking me today, I would think James Franklin's the leading candidate. I have no earthly idea who's going to get that job. And the funny thing is, I don't think anybody knows who's going to get that job.
Yeah, I think it's really early.
And I think that they made a big mistake firing Clay Helton when they fired him. Because it's put guys like Urban and Fickle and Franklin and all these other dudes in awkward positions to have to be asking questions. And there is going to be some consternation on that.
Yeah, but I also think that firing him when you did plays into what you're saying, which is, they have high expectations and they're just not gonna be okay with they would rather be in an awkward position than lose constantly and be mediocre. And I can respect that.
All right, let's get some more of your comments. Spencer Morgan says Penn State has been closer. We talked about that one. The Buff says Penn State will always be second best behind Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
And this is my point on Michigan. Jim Harbaugh's a really good coach. I just don't think you're ever going to have the talent you need there to win. I don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really tough spot to be in. Colin says Bishop Sycamore's old coach is looking for a new job. He is. Justin Salas says, I'm with you, Jake. All right, let's skip that comment.
Yeah, go ahead and skip all those. Yeah.
I'm with you, Jake, on this one. SC hasn't done anything in over a decade. True, mismanaged. Brandon Whiteside says the USC shine faded years ago. Just an average team right now. Keywords being right now. Greg Hawkins says the thing about SC is that they have the highest ceiling in the Pac-12 and possibly the whole country. That's my point.
That's
my point.
This is classic USC logic. Let's fawn and get really excited over what could be, because that's what we're doing with this whole USC situation, right? If we apply this same logic to any other contender.
Florida.
Oh, my God.
Apply it to Florida.
Florida fired their coach. Well, they're one coach away from being a national champion. No, they're not.
But they are, though.
No, they're not.
But, oh my
no
God.
way they're not.
You're
Not
killing
while
me,
Nick
Smalls.
Saban's at Alabama.
What about Steve Spurrier? But what about Steve Spurrier?
What about him?
What did he do at Florida? One. What about Urban Meyer? Did Urban Meyer give a fuck about who was the head coach at Alabama when he was at Florida? He didn't. He just had players who killed people. But other than that, they won a lot of football games with Jesus Christ incarnate Tim Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
Florida, the issue at Florida is that you can't be a nice guy and be the head coach at Florida. You need Steve Spurrier. You need Urban Meyer. And right now you have a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, Nick Saban's not a nice guy.
He's not.
Right? I look at Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. He's not a nice guy. He ain't. Never going to be. And that's why they're good. Like, yeah. I think when you look at Florida, in my mind, is the perfect example of this. And maybe they are the SC of the SEC. They won't win until they hire a badass to be the head coach at Florida. But in the comparison's probably not a good one. Is the Florida job a good job? Hell yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely it is.
God bless.
Is the USC job a better job than Florida? Ain't close. Absolutely, positively it is. It is. And I think the hardest part about going to a place like SC or Florida is you're still replacing Pete Carroll, and you're still replacing Urban Meyer, and you're still replacing Tim Tebow, and you're always going to be replacing Nick Saban at Bama. You're always Auburn in the SEC. Shouldn't Auburn play for a national championship every year? Well, apparently they shouldn't. That's why Gus Malzahn's not there. Right? I mean, because he wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Right? So I look at every conference in this country, and it's always one or two teams.
Right.
There's not 10 teams in the SEC that are vying for a national championship. When I ask you who's going to win who's going to compete for the top of the SEC, you're like, well,
three teams.
Yeah, it's probably not probably. It's Alabama, but isn't Georgia, Michigan? Georgia's never going to win because Georgia isn't a national championship contender. Georgia doesn't do what needs to be done to win.
They're a college football playoff contender.
Yeah,
but they're not actually going to win anything.
Maybe, but that's cool. You're Notre Dame. You're going to get in, and then what?
Yeah,
you're going to get whooped, right? That's who Georgia is. Georgia is the guy that fills the schedule until they win a national championship.
Yeah.
Sorry, Curb, but that is what you are.
Yeah.
That's what every conference has. We talked about the Big Ten. We look at the Pac-12. Every year, good enough, but you're not great.
It's just so dysfunctional.
Oregon, you got that Nike money, and it doesn't mean a whole lot.
You can win on the road, but can you do it over a full schedule?
You got cool uniforms, but until you fire Cristobal and hire a badass, you're not going to win.
See, and that's why I say, like, I don't know, man. I just feel like USC gets put on a pedestal, and I guess I just disagree that they should have the right to be on that pedestal when like if we're going to apply this logic to any team, I actually think Oregon is the perfect team. Think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Oregon with Chip was a powerhouse. You let him go or he leaves or whatever, and Mario comes in, does some nice stuff, but you haven't really been the same.
No, you haven't.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Fire him and hire that, air quotes badass, and all of a sudden you're back to where you were. So I don't know, man. I like I said, I'm not trying to be difficult about SC. I understand that they're that sexy model in the Pac-12. They're that program that should always be good, and they're in LA. Like, I get all that. I understand, but I'm just more the guy who says, "What have you done for me anytime recently?" And that's what I struggle with.
By the way, I'm not reading Instagram disappearing messages anymore. Like
vanish mode,
whatever the fuck it's called. Don't send me vanishing messages. I hate that. Anyway, all right. Greg Hawkins says, "Go Cubs, go!" Thank you. Cody Strickland said, "Oops, was late and missed everything. Haha, but I try to catch up, and I haven't heard anything on your 9/11 story." Yeah, we weren't able to get to our 9/11 stories. Spencer Morgan says, "Bob Stoops is the definition of has-been nobody. I'd hire Bob Stoops tomorrow. Bob Stoops can coach my football team anytime you want." Oklahoma is another interesting one.
Yeah, same logic.
Lincoln Riley's hung like a horse. Okay, well, what has he done?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't done anything since, really since, I guess, Baker, right? What have they done since Baker was gone?
No. What have they done since Barry Switzer was in trouble? You know what I'm saying? He says, Jake is right. Heritage program is the best way to describe SC. I would agree with that. He says, the argument that you can hire Urban and win the title does not make USC a top-tier program now. It's not a top-tier program today. No, it's not. That would be true of any P5 school. Hire Urban Meyer, you're winning titles in a few years. So yeah, I would agree with that. Colin says, as long as we are consistently winning 10, 11 games with Saban in the SEC, you can't complain. I'd agree with that.
That's true.
Whiteside says, hype is everything in college athletics. This is the reason coaches matter. Best young recruiters are like moths to the brightest lights. This is why BYU is on the up while Utes are dropping. Yeah.
That's a fair point.
And you know what? And it was earlier in the comments, or maybe it was yesterday. Somebody said at some point, the best part about Kyle Whittingham taking the USC job would be that Utah needs a new voice.
Yeah.
When you've been there a decade, it's
time.
It's tough. It's difficult. It's difficult. And I'm not the guy who wants to, I'm not the guy who wants to push the button on Kyle Whittingham. That's I don't know that I'm with that. FTW official says, hey, I know this is completely off topic. When is the giveaway date for the Xbox? You didn't specify. To be determined. Chris Morris says Bob Stoops won a national title. Right, but anyway, if I have to explain that. Anyway. Spencer Morgan says if USC is really a national title program now, then they shouldn't need to have the perfect hire like Urban Meyer in order to win titles. That's
not what he was saying, though.
But you do need a power coach.
Yeah.
You need a guy who has a system and a process and can recruit to that system and process. And that's one of the most difficult things to find in college football.
Well, and I think it's good news that your AD is setting the bar where he's setting it. I mean, I said, I respect that. I absolutely respect that. And I think, again, I'll just say, when you fire Clay Helton when you did, it supports the narrative that, hey, it's no longer good enough to what we're doing. And we're fine being mediocre this year because we're going to find the right head coach. And I think it just kind of puts you in a position as a program where there's a bit of pressure to make sure that this next person you get is the guy that can get it done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's absolutely true. Hawkins says, if Alabama had a coach like Clay Helton, they'd be garbage. Well, his name is Mike Shula.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. Spencer says Jake is right on this. I agree. Okay.
Yeah.
We got to get a Thursday night lock in here. The Washington Football Club is home for the Giants tonight.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that's surprised that Washington's favored by 3.5 here? I'm a little surprised by that. And
wait, where is this game being played?
I think it's at FedEx, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was
FedEx.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
No, I was just making sure. Yeah, I mean,
that game's in Landover, Washington.
Yeah, I think they're just saying these two teams are even, and I think that's fair.
Well, you have Heineke's going to be your quarterback.
Yeah.
Obviously with the Fitzmagic news, his injury and whatnot. I'm a little, I guess 3.5's. I mean, you get
what did you expect?
You get 3 points for being a home team.
Did you expect Washington to be a heavier favorite?
I thought that the Giants would be favored in this game. I mean, it's pretty much a pick 'em at this point. It's a half point because you get 3 for being home. But
I would take Washington just simply because they're at home, and I think that Washington has a propensity for playing games where it's tight and then they get that one big play that kind of breaks the game open a little bit for them. That's the kind of football that they play.
The thing that worries you is they gave up 337 to Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
And it took a superhuman effort from the we don't play in San Diego Chargers anymore to win that game. So that kind of worries you. And, now you're looking at a situation where Heineke is the guy now. Like, this is his club. And I don't know that he's ready for that. And I look at the fact that they have a lot of talent on offense, but you threw for 135 yards last week. And Terry McLaurin led the way. But I look at Logan Thomas. That was a great touchdown.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what they are offensively.
Well,
and I don't know that you can just turn the passing game loose. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know what Washington is right now.
I think the biggest thing is the Chargers have a better defense than the Chargers have a pretty good defense. And I look at the Giants and I say you're a team that is a little dysfunctional right now. You've got a young guy at quarterback who is supposed to have the goods but is had the injury bug, and so you're kind of working through some things. Obviously, it's no secret that Saquon has also had the injury bug, but obviously he's good to go. So for me, I look at this game and I say, okay, yeah, you did. You're right. You did throw for 135 yards last week, But at the same time, you're coming into week 2. Heineke, like you were just saying, is going to get a start to this game, a clean start. He's going to be able to game plan all week long. So you're not going to be in this situation where he's coming into the middle of a game. So to me, this performance tonight for Heineke is probably 250, 275, an interception, 2, if it's a great night, 3 touchdowns, that kind of a game. And I think that the defense is ultimately what you're going to be watching for Washington because the offense is not great.
I wonder what we get out of Saquon tonight. I wonder what we get. I look at the Giants, and I'm curious. I think he's questionable for this game. He's obviously dealing with this knee.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know who he is as a running back right now. And, their number one would be Devontae Booker, the Ute alum.
Right.
Who made a freaking spectacular catch last week, by the way.
Yeah.
I like Daniel Jones. I do. I think he has, Galladay, Slayton, and Shepard are 3 really good receivers.
Yeah.
I think Sterling Shepard, Oklahoma, is a really good weapon. I just don't know how do you give up 27 and 100 yards rushing to the Denver Broncos? I think this has the potential to be an ugly football game.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to have to get more out of Leonard Williams on that line if you're a Giants fan. I think you're going to, like Blake Martinez was a nice little addition to that defense. If Blake Martinez is double-digit tackles in this game, Washington's going to win. And just because they're at home, I think I'm going to take Washington to win and cover tonight.
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm going. This feels like a 27-21 game. Because I don't think either one of these offenses is putting up 30 points.
Yeah, I agree. I would think under 30 for both teams, and I think that, I would say that if either team was going to struggle to make 20, it would be the Giants. So I would say, I'm with you. I think it's 27, 28 points for Washington, anywhere between 17 to 24 points for the Giants. That's what I'd be looking for.
I think I would agree with that. By the way, Calvin Johnson says Washington 31-21. Wow, so you like Washington walking away?
Well, that's turnovers, right? So that's going to be turnovers.
Yeah, that's a good point. You'd have to probably have a pick 6 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Heineke's a good quarterback. It'll be interesting. I'm thrilled to have Thursday Night Football back.
Yeah.
I really am. I love talking football. Teddy Wayman says, I think Washington wins by 2 scores. Wow. Man, the Giants are not high on anybody's total poll.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right, let's switch gears, talk a little Laker basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And really talk a little Western Conference here, because if you did not hear the tweak the Lakers are making to their offense, you should probably pull over if you're driving or sit down, because you should be terrified. The LA Lakers leak sources. Sources in LA say that the Lakers are going to play Anthony Davis full-time at the 5 and LeBron full-time at the 4. He's going to be a full-time power forward. He will not be on the ball. And I instantly went to where you went in the pre-show, behind-the-scenes secretive meeting. Good luck stopping the pick and roll against the Lakers. And if you're a Utah Jazz fan, a Phoenix Suns fan, a Denver Nuggets fan, I don't know what you do if LeBron James and Anthony Davis are running pick and roll and Russell Westbrook's the outlet. I don't know what you do with that, because, Jake, I think that's absolutely a recipe to win the Western Conference.
Yeah, and I think what it's a recipe for specifically is high percentage look after high percentage look and getting a lot of fouls against your opponent. And I think what you see is they're going to play faster, and that's part of the reason you signed Russell Westbrook, is because you want to get more transition buckets, and we all know that Russ loves to play fast and run up and down. And so I think you're going to get that dynamic. But then, in the half court, and this is why it's so important that Russell Westbrook come through on all these, all this talk about how he's changed and he's going to change his game and he's going to fit in LA and all this stuff. This whole conversation is predicated on the idea that Russell Westbrook is going to actually facilitate and run offense and not just take, the elbow jumper that he can brick off the backboard 5-6 times a game, Like, you can't do that in Los Angeles and think that you're going to win a championship. And so I look at this team and I say, yeah, this is the right move. This is the pragmatic move. AD at the 5, LeBron at the 4, Russ at the 2, and put a second tier player at the 1. To be off the ball. And I think that with this setup, they're going to get a lot of looks in the paint. And I think when you look at the other teams around them, I'm just starting to say, okay, well, if LeBron and AD are at the 4 and the 5, let's look at any of these other teams. Like, look at the Jazz.
Yeah.
How do the Jazz match up with that? Because you're not going to put Rudy on Anthony Davis because he's too fast for him. You're obviously not putting Rudy Gobert on LeBron. So then it's going to force teams like the Jazz and many other teams as well, not just the Jazz. This is going to be a league-wide problem where you're basically going to have to play a hybrid man zone. 4 guys are playing man, and your big is playing zone. That's what you're forcing. So I just think it's a matchup nightmare for anybody playing the Lakers.
Well, and then I also think you have to look at the way the roster is constructed in LA now. You are light on point guards. You are heavy on 2-3 combo guys. And you look at guys like Kent Bazemore, Carmelo Anthony. This is why I love the Mac McClung, Malik Monk pickups.
Yes.
You look at guys like Wayne Ellington, Trevor Ariza. They're going to shoot the 3, and they're going to shoot the 3 well. And the other thing they're going to do is defend. And you make up for a lot of the inadequacies of Russell Westbrook's shooting by his tenacious defense and his ability to get in passing lanes. And the Lakers on the run, I think, are going to be
dangerous.
Because
very dangerous.
One thing we know that LeBron can still do is run the court. Now, the question I think you have to ask, obviously, and you could say this about just about any other team, but can they stay healthy? Can Anthony Davis play a full slate? Can LeBron play, because what are you probably going to ask Anthony Davis and LeBron to play? 75 games? 72 games?
35 minutes a night.
You're probably going to ask him to play, 35 minutes a night for 72 games. Can they do that? I don't know. Not recently. They won a championship 2 years ago with a lot of rest. So I think it'll be interesting to see. Now, as far as AD goes, I think they've done a reasonable job of backstopping him now with Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan. You have depth behind him because if he's purely – and I think this is why he's not playing the 4 anymore.
Yeah.
Because he cannot stay healthy. And I think they know that keeping AD healthy has to be a priority. Putting him purely at the 5, I think, keeps him a lot healthier.
Yeah.
It takes the wear and tear. Now, putting LeBron at the 4 probably puts more wear and tear on him, but that's a guy that prepares his body to play.
Well, I think it depends how you play the game. I think certainly taking LeBron off the ball and putting him at the 4 is less wear and tear for LeBron.
Yes.
But you're also going to get, there's a lot of videos going around on Instagram about, Nikola Jokic playing bully ball against LeBron, just because he's got more size and he's skilled, So, those are the things that the Lakers are going to have to figure out against the Western. Obviously against the whole league, but specifically against these other Western Conference teams that have bigs and can create problems.
But Denver's interesting because this is why the Aaron Gordon deal. And one of the guys on, I want to say it was Instagram or Twitter yesterday, we were talking about, why did you re-sign Aaron Gordon when you already have Michael Porter Jr.? I think MPJ is a different player. He's a different body. They're completely different players, in my opinion. And I think that you need multiple bodies that can do different things at the 3-4 combo to win a championship in this league.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes LeBron so deadly still at this age, because he can play the 3-4. He can defend the 3-4. Now, is he defending MPJ? He's not. He's not. But that's why you have guys like Talon Horton-Tucker. That's why you have a guy in Trevor Ariza who can still defend, because Carmelo really is not a good defender anymore.
Yeah.
Not that he's really ever been. But when you look at guys like Kent Bazemore is a willing, wanting defender.
Yeah.
That's a guy that you can put out there and say, okay, hey, the 2-3 that you're going to guard, because Bazemore's a shooting guard. He's a 2-3 guy. That's the guy that you need to defend well.
Yeah.
So I think the Lakers this is absolutely the right thing to do. Now, if I look at, the Jazz, I don't love this matchup for the Jazz. Like, Rudy Gay can defend LeBron James, but physically that's going to be a beating on Rudy Gay. My question is, how does Mike Conley do on Russell Westbrook? Well, nobody's going to stand in front of Russ because he's so damn quick, but it'll be interesting to see what is Mike Conley's job? Is Mike Conley's job to sag? Because you're going to sag off of Russell Westbrook to help in the paint.
For sure.
There's no doubt about that. If he's beating you with a 3-ball, okay, cool. Russell hit 4 out of 5 and then missed 10 out of 11. So, yeah, knock yourself out, kid. Like, you want to do that, go ahead. The problem becomes keeping Russ out of the paint and making sure that Rudy Gobert doesn't have to be a rim protector against the Lakers. Because if he's got to go help on penetration, Anthony Davis is going to have a field day. Because Carmelo Anthony is going to be posted up at the line. Guys, like all their other guys on this roster, the Talon Horton Tuckers, the LeBrons, the Wayne Ellington, Trevor Ariza, Carmelo Anthony, Kent Bazemore, all those guys do is shoot threes.
And that's what I'm saying. This roster is pretty much built for flexibility. I mean, that's why you put LeBron at the 4 because yeah, he may be a 4 on paper, but it allows you to do just so many different things, and that's key because that's going to allow you to win games against different styles of defenses and different styles of teams, and that to me is the biggest deal. I look at this roster and I say, man, you've got a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things. Anthony Davis can play the 4, can play the 5. There were even times in the bubble where they had him matched up against a 3. Not all the time, but at times he's done that. And so I apply that same logic to, obviously, LeBron, Russ, even Carmelo, again, at times, not all the time, but at times can do a lot of things.
But here's the question. How do the Lakers defend Donovan Mitchell? Because they don't have a man-for-man matchup there.
I mean, that might be true, but the problem is, and I'm sorry, this is going to piss people off, if Donovan has 50, they're not winning games. That's the problem. That's the thing.
Well, and I think Donovan, the one thing I'm interested to see on Donovan is he going to fall in love with his three-point shot? Because I think there's a lot of people who don't love him going to the basket. But he feeds off of trying to dunk on, like, the entire stadium. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to dunk on 8 guys.
He wants the energy, there's no doubt.
Yeah, and so I'll be interested to see how his game has changed after this injury, because it's going to change. They always do.
Yeah.
But when you have 2 guards, and obviously Mike Conley's got to stay healthy.
Wow.
But if this is a playoff matchup, I'm curious to see, like, what does their starting 5 look like? You know what I mean? Who's going to be their starting 2? I mean, I look at the possibilities here. Is Russell Westbrook going to play the 2 and Rondo's going to start? I don't know.
I don't love Rondo starting.
I don't love Rondo starting at all.
Yeah.
But who else do you play there? Like, I don't know that you have a great fit.
I think you want Russ at the 1, and you worry about the 2. You want Russ on the ball, getting the ball across the timing line, and getting you into your offense. That way you can start. Because, again, their offense is going to be all about creating mismatches. I'm telling you. That's what the mission of this offense is going to be. And so it really is going to be a case-by-case basis of who's going to do what. I truly believe that the Lakers' mentality is not like, hey, Russ is going to be on the ball every single night no matter what. I think it really just depends on who they're playing and what the most efficient route to the W is. And so to me, I think some nights you're going to see Russ is going to be, like, if you're playing a big team, and you want to try to outrun them, okay, well, you're going to slot Russ down a little bit, right? You're going to slot Russ into the 2, and you're going to bring a second-tier player and put him on the ball, and you're going to use that speed, that speed and size to beat them down the floor. But I think on other nights, when you're playing a smaller team, you're going to put Russ at the 1, and you're going to say, okay, bully this guy.
Well, all I'm telling you is Kendrick Nunn's gonna be a difference maker.
And I think people forget that they have him.
Yeah, Kung Fu Kenny is coming.
Yeah, dude.
And that's a guy that can give you 25, 30 minutes a night. And this is why I say, I think you're going to see Russ versus Donovan Mitchell a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and when the Lakers and the Jazz play, I think that's a fascinating matchup. I think out of the gate, I still think, let's see how the Suns develop their guys over the summer. I still think the Suns are arguably the best team in the West. Everybody being healthy, all things being equal, I think I would go Lakers 1, Clippers 2, Jazz 3, Suns 4.
Yeah.
And
those 4 are going to battle to the death.
Please, God, let them all end up in the Western Conference Finals. Can we please have a 4-team round robin in the Western Conference Finals?
The NBA college basketball playoff.
By the way,
yeah.
I do want to talk about Kyrie Irving real quick.
This guy.
I don't get it. So you may have heard that the Nets had talked about trading Kyrie Irving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I don't think the three of them can coexist. Now, James Harden is claiming he's only 80% recovered from this hamstring. We're a week and a half away from training camp. Like, this a problem. So you need Kyrie. But I think what you saw is that when Kyrie and KD were on the floor together without James, they were still the best team in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
But when James Harden and Kevin Durant were on the floor together, they were better than the best team in the NBA. They were much better. And I think the interesting thing is Kyrie Irving's a pain in the ass. He's a headache.
You're a douche.
So I wonder how true it is that allegedly Kyrie Irving told the Nets, if you trade me, I'm retiring. And then yesterday he decided to tweet, and he doesn't tweet very often. Kyrie Irving decided to tweet about not wearing a mask. Take the mask off. And then they said, well, that wasn't COVID related. That was be your true self.
Mr. fucking vaccination genius scientific expert, you fucking asshole.
I think it applies perfectly.
Are you serious? You want us to believe that wasn't COVID related? Even if it wasn't COVID related, it's COVID related.
You are fake.
Like, are you serious right now? That was absolutely COVID related.
Yeah.
Whether it is or whether it's not,
But
it's COVID related.
This is what he wants. This is
I
what
think
he
so.
wants. He wants people to be talking about Kyrie Irving. That's what Kyrie Irving wants. That's why he's walking through buildings, burning sage. That's why he left Boston for Brooklyn. That's why he tweets his dumbass stuff all the time. Like, that's why he goes to parties in the middle of the season when he's not vaccinated. Like, that's why he does all this stuff. That's who this guy is. And I just want to say, dude, you are constantly not playing basketball. That's who you are. You're constantly off the floor, not playing basketball. Are you really good? Yes, you're really good. Have you won a championship? Yes, you have. You've done everything you want to do in the league. But I don't buy for a fact or for a second that if they trade you, oh, well, I'm just going to retire. You're going to be the guy that retires for 5 minutes, and then you're going to be back in the league. That's who you are because, again, you want attention. So, to me, I just think that Kyrie Irving needs to stop talking, needs to start playing. That's what needs to happen.
He feels very high maintenance to me.
Yeah, dude, that's who he is.
I'm just not here for that. Like, I love him. I love watching him play.
Yeah.
If I didn't have to do the whole, converted religions in the middle of the season thing, I love watching him play. If I didn't have to do
about.
If I didn't have to do the birthday party at a strip club thing, I love watching him play. If I didn't have to do I'm the alpha male and nobody's better than me, trade me, I don't want to play with LeBron anymore, let's go to Boston, fall flat on our face, and then go to Brooklyn where they're talking about trading me now, I love watching him play.
Yeah.
The guy's a pain in the ass. I just, at some point, your talent's not worth it. You have Kevin Durant and James Harden on your team, and you're still a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
You wanted this. You asked for this, and you're still a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it. It's not worth it to me.
Yeah.
So I would trade him. If he retires, okay, cool, man. Peace out, bro. Your career's a wreck. Your legacy's destroyed. Good luck with that. Right? Like, I just think that he's a malcontent. He's always going to be a malcontent.
That's who he is, man. That is who he is.
All right. What do you think the biggest story in the news is? Is it Gabby Petito?
I mean, I think it is, but this whole thing is, this story is really sad. I mean, So
tell the story. Lay it out.
So, like, if you haven't been following this story, basically this couple who's from New York, they do this whole thing that's kind of been a hip kind of new thing that's come along, which is, hey, let's get in a van, let's drive across the country, and let's have a great time. So Gabby Petito and her boyfriend Brian, on July 2nd, this is the timeline of the event, so this makes sense. So Gabby and Brian get in their van, and they leave New York, and they're traveling west across the country. And they're documenting all of this on YouTube and Instagram, so there's that added layer on well. So July 2nd, they leave New York, they're heading west. August 12th, Utah police officers respond to an incident involving Gabby and Brian, which was reported by a third party. No files were filed. No charges were filed. So they get in some kind of argument. There's a bit of video on it. You can kind of find it. Then you get on the 19th, 6-7 days later, You get Gabby posting a YouTube video, which admittedly was really kind of nice. It seemed like they were having a good time. Everything was awesome. They're kissing. They're on the beach. They're having a nice time. Then a couple days later, on the 21st of August, you've got the father and stepmother speak to Gabby in their last FaceTime with her. Okay, this is the last communication that they have with her, and Gabby and Brian were located in Utah at this time. They were in Utah. So you fast forward, they go through this trip, right? On September 11th, Gabby is reported missing by the family. Okay? The problem here, and what makes Brian look really good for Gabby's what everybody thinks is her death. We don't actually know if she's dead or where she is. We're just presuming that she's dead. The problem is when the family on September 11th reported Gabby missing, that was 10 days after dude got back to New York. So they drive all the way west to Yellowstone, Utah, all this awesome stuff. Dude comes home in the van, and Gabby's just missing. The day after he gets back, what happens? The family reports her missing. So there's this whole thing that's unfolding here. Part of this is Instagram. Part of this is YouTube.
Part of this is body cam footage.
Body cam footage, exactly like the police.
I think you got to go back to the Moab incident.
You have to.
And if you don't know, on August 12th, as Jake said, they had a huge fight.
Yeah, and it says Utah police officers on August 12th
in Moab
responded to an incident where Gabby and Brian were having a disagreement, and the police were called by a third party, but no charges were filed. So something happened there.
But listen, having watched the body cam footage, it's pretty clear. And how did the Moab police classify it? A mental health issue. That's how they classified it. They separated the two, Gabby and her boyfriend. They separated the two and put the boyfriend in a hotel for the night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and I'm with the family on this. You're her fiance, not her boyfriend. You go back to Florida, retain a lawyer, and refuse to talk to anybody. And you never reported her missing.
Yeah.
And you were separated by the Moab Police Department for a mental health crisis. Come on, man. Is my opinion not clear here? The boyfriend has to be involved. And by the way, I'm sure they know this, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but she's been gone 2 weeks. And more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if she's just out in the wilderness, she's not out in the wilderness anymore. Because think about where they've been and where they went. You had bears, cougars, mountain lions, wolves, foxes.
The last time
Come on.
Gabby's parents heard from her was August 30th. After August 30th, dude returns home on September 1st. So my point in that is he went from Moab and Yellowstone to New York City in
now Florida.
2 days?
And now Florida.
He drove his ass across the country in 2 days in that van all the way to New York and now has left.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that say?
I think he had a mental health issue. And I think that there was, in my opinion, he had a mental health issue. In my opinion, he and her had some kind of physical altercation. In my opinion, I think she was left in the wilderness. I was just at Yellowstone. And I can tell you, if you're a dead body at Yellowstone or if you're an unconscious body at Yellowstone out in the wild, there's going to be a bear, there's going to be an elk, there's going to be a cougar, there's going to be a lion, there's going to be a fox. You're not going to last long.
Yeah.
And if you're injured and you're bleeding in the wild, the animals do what animals do.
They eat.
Like they eat. And this poor woman, I think, is the victim, in my opinion, is the victim of a crime. And I think it is incredibly, incredibly suspect.
Yeah.
Incredibly suspect that this SOB, and if he had a mental health break, okay, I totally get that. As his parents, you have a right to do what you want. As his parents and as the parent of a child, you have a responsibility to communicate. And if he truly did this, and in my opinion, you can't tell me he just went home and was like, I'm not talking. hey, little Jimmy, you want to tell us what happened in Moab? If he's like, no, fuck off, I'm not talking. Okay, well then you can't stay here, and we can't support you. Well, yeah, we had a fight. This happened. And, okay, listen, I support you, and we're going to get you a lawyer, and we're going to do everything we can do to help you. But we got to go to the cops here.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to communicate with her family here. There's a woman out there that you loved, that you were going to marry. His parents are just as guilty as he is. If they're protecting him and they know the truth, in my opinion, they're just as guilty as he is. The problem is you're never going to have evidence here.
Yeah.
Because, by the way, why haven't they seized that van? Why haven't there are no plans, according to authorities, to get a search warrant for him or his home or any of their property. There's no plans for that. So how long has he had to destroy evidence? Probably, and she's been gone weeks. You'll never find it. And if he truly left her in the wilderness, if she is in fact dead, you better pray he buried that body. And you better pray they find it. Because if he left her in the wilderness and a bear or a lion or wolves, the wolves at Yellowstone will absolutely feast on that, on a human carcass.
Yeah.
They'll never find it. There will never be
it's really
DNA
sad,
evidence. Dude. It's a terrible, terrible story.
Yeah.
And it's one of those ones that I hope everybody pressures this guy.
Yeah.
And I hope the pressure breaks the pipe.
Yeah, this is one of those stories. I feel like this is straight out of like a Netflix show or something. This is one of those stories that's just like way out there, and it's national because of how it all went down.
And listen, I agree with Brylark on this. Monty just said he killed her. The problem is they can't find a body. They won't be able to put him behind bars because he did the smart criminal thing, and lawyered up before saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're a murderer and you're trying to get away with it and you have no conscience and you're a shitbag, crappy human being, go hire a lawyer and don't say anything to anybody because that's how you get away with stuff.
Yeah.
It's true. It's why all the lawyers say if a cop says, hey, can I search your car? No, you can't. Okay, then you're going to have to get out of your car. No, I won't because I don't have to. They know what they're doing. When you lawyer up and you and your family won't say two words publicly, yeah, you're Scott Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have a huge guilty sign hanging around your neck, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But OJ got off. He's not guilty, right?
Yeah, well, and he's not going to go to L.A. because he doesn't want to sit next to the actual killer. You know?
I agree with that. All right, we got to roll. That's an hour and 23 minutes. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? We'll see you tomorrow. Football Friday on the show. We'll have locks for you. Obviously, we'll have the Utes in San Diego State. We'll have ASU in Provo taking on BYU. We'll have picks and locks on those and all the biggest games in the NFL and in college sports. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. If you're watching right now, please give us a thumbs up. It really does make a difference. It helps the channel grow. When we get to 2,500, we're giving away a smoker and then an Xbox. So let's go. Hook it up. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.